So I'm going to read the verse 10 one more time really quick. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation 10 days. Remember the 10 days? The 10 days, he's talking about 10 different Caesars. He's talking about 10 different Caesars for the time AD 100 to AD 315, until the Constantine comes, that they're going to be 10 days, which is 10 different time frames of Caesars. The church is going to be suffering. It's going through persecution. 10 days. The Lord's telling in details. And then people say, how reliable is the Bible? Well, how much more of this do you want? He's telling exactly how many more Caesars are going to be exactly sitting in the throne and persecuting Christians before one Caesar is going to come and change it up. Which are going to get that next week in the next church. So here we see that it's very detailed. The Lord's telling them, but be strong. Even when they push you to deny me, you get crowns in heaven, and the church stayed strong. Here another example is telling that someone was going to be thrown in prison and some of you are going to die. At the time of that Smyrna, at this time it was written, Smyrna had a bishop called Polycarp. Polycarp was the bishop of the church in Smyrna. Polycarp was an old man, very old man. He was in his late 70s or 80s, and he was the bishop of the church of Smyrna. So they arrested him, and they told him, they said, listen, you're an old man, you're going to die. Just say Caesar is Lord, bow down, put like a little bit of incense, in front of him, and you're done. We're not going to kill you, we'll let you go. You're free. He said, just say, just bow down in front of Caesar, say, Caesar, your Lord, put a little bit of incense, and you walk out of here, everything's good. Polycarp said no. He said no. I can't do this. He said, all my life I lived for the Lord. I haven't seen a single harm from him. The Lord guided me this far. Why am I going to turn away from him now? So they said, okay, in that case, they had at the time, in this their style of punishment and whatnot, they had a hollowed out, made out of brass, a cow, an oxen. And they open it and they put the man or woman or whatever inside. They put Polycarp in it. And they closed it up and lit fire under him. So basically they boil him in there. You got cooked in your own juices inside of this brass cow. So for hours they burn, and this guy is still alive. Nothing happens. They open, that thing is super hot. I mean, it's red as it's going to be. I mean, anything in there would have melted completely, but he's sitting there, nothing happened to him. The fire is still on. They get one of the soldiers or the generals, whatever, he gets mad, he pulls out his sword and he slices his throat. His blood sprays over the fire and turns the fire off. They cut
Horse of Troy, right? Horse of Troy?
No, it's similar. There's an ox, Toro, man, hollowed out. They put him inside. They cook him. Now that's a different thing. That's a big statue. They pulled him. So the flames were turned off with his own blood. So just as what the Lord is trying to tell them that I don't care what you do. You're not going to prevail. You're not going to get what you want. You are eventually will kill me. That's okay. It's whatever it is. But understand, you did not kill his spirit. You did not kill his soul. You might have killed his body, but not until many people who was watching converted. Many people who was watching believed. Many people who were watching in disbelief, they said, this man has a real God. What are we worshiping? It's not the God. It's nothing. This man has the real God. And then they had to go find out how to get to know this man's God. So, as a bishop, all the way to his death, was still worshiping and preaching God. Teaching and preaching the Lord. So, we're coming to the end. The end is very important, the verse 11. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes shall not be hurt by the second death. Let me read this one more time. He who overcomes shall not be hurt by the second death. What is second death, brothers and sisters? Second death. Remember something we spoke about, a year or so ago in John chapter 3? Good, I'm glad many of you were paying attention even back then. Praise the Lord. Second death. I'm going to get to it in detail. This is very good. See, the second death will not apply to the believers. See, for the non-believers, they will be judged in front of the great white throne. But as us, the believers, the second death will not apply to us. 4 places in the Bible speaks of the second death. Revelation chapter 20, if you want, I'll read it, verse 6. Revelation chapter 20, verse 14. Revelation chapter 21, verse 8. And also John 3:3 speaks of second birth and second. Well, I'm going to do it really quick. We have a couple of minutes because I'm done. So we might as well enjoy this lovely closing, and especially what we see in the Bible. It's given us its parallel. So chapter 20, verse 6, it says here, "Blessed and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection. Over such the second death has no power. But they shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years." See, here the Lord is reminding you one more time that the second death, if you're not part of it, you are going to be priests and kings. Priests and kings in the millennium to come. Verse 14. Oh, why do I have it highlighted? "Then death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire." This is the second death. The lake of fire. So even death and the death was even thrown in Hades. The death and Hades were casted into the lake of fire. That's the second death. That's what the Lord is talking about. So basically, and we're going to go to verse 21. Let me go ahead and read them all. Verse 20, chapter 21, verse 8. Verse 8, I better have this highlighted too. Come on, Mr. Jacob. But the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters. Let me read this one more time. Sorcerers, idolaters, murderers, cowardly, unbelieving, and all liars, shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.